Welcome to Salesology, conversations with sales leaders, the art of faster, easier, more profitable sales. When you're ready to transform your sales for today's transforming market, we've got you covered with your host, the queen of cold calling and founder of Salesology, award-winning author, speaker, sales trainer, and coach, Wendy Weiss.
Hi, welcome to Salesology, conversations with sales leaders, the art of faster, easier, more profitable sales. And I'm your host, Wendy Weiss. I am the founder of Salesology and the Salesology Prospecting Method. I'm also known as the queen of cold calling. And today, our very special guest, my very special guest, is Steve Pearson, and he is a principal with DAUM Commercial Real Estate. And a little background on Steve. He has a BA in psychology from Stanford University. He has an MBA in marketing and finance from Colorado University at Boulder. He started his first job out of college. He was a manager at Hertz at the Los Angeles airport. Then he moved on to CBRE, the CBRE Denver, and then CBRE San Francisco. Steve developed the Coldwell Banker commercial franchise system. Have to ask him about that. 9 years with Sentio Healthcare Property Board. And now he is a principal at DAUM Commercial Real Estate. In the spirit of full disclosure, Steve is also a client. And one more thing, he is a tequila entrepreneur, elmonooldo.com. And so I have to ask him about that for sure. And he is a mean ukulele player. So welcome, Steve.
Well, thank you. Good to be here.
Yeah. So let's begin at the beginning. How did you go from the Los Angeles airport, the Hertz counter, to commercial real estate? What's the backstory?
Interesting. Backstory, my dad was a general contractor, so I grew up around construction all the time. But one of the couple of things threw the switch of, hey, this transportation thing, specifically the work I was doing at Hertz in Los Angeles, looked less promising. First of all, when a gentleman that I had known in high school, who later went on to be one of the co-producers of a lot of movies, came by one time and it was a strike going on. I was kind of working the desk because everybody else was striking. And he says, "Hey, I guess all of that Stanford education really did well for you." He saw me as a counter attendant at the rent-a-car. So that kind of rang a bell. And so I decided, hey, my background is around industrial real estate. Why not go for it? So I called up the gentleman that I had interviewed before I started with Hertz back in Denver and said, is there still an opening? He said, come on down. So that's what got it started.
All right. So I'm curious, what do you like about being in the real estate industry?
The money. No,
okay.
Well, and that's the short answer. The real answer is I'm basically in the business of helping people make or save money with the knowledge that I know about the area in which they are operating their business. And to me, that's a pretty cool thing.
Yeah. I mean, let's face it, if there's a business, they can't really operate without the right space that they need, whether it's for an office or a warehouse or a retail store, whatever it is, they need that in order to be able to operate their business.
Well, they do. And many people might, and we specifically focus mostly on industrial. So industrial logistics, property. And many times I'll be talking to someone, they say, well, that's kind of just a bunch of concrete, isn't it? And I said, no. These are people that are running a business that changes every day. whether it's the suppliers that they have or whether it's the marketplace that they're addressing, maybe it's the partnership that they have that's changing. Every day there's a different decision being made. And if I can help play a constructive role in that, then that's what I do.
And nothing really gets to market without that industrial, either the space, the warehouse, the logistics. Nothing happens until absent that.
Yeah, well, and particularly post-COVID. I mean, once COVID hit, our business boomed. I mean, because business went from you going to the retail store down the street to people ordering online. And when they order online, where's it coming from? Well, it's coming from a warehouse, a logistics, a distribution center. And so the demand for logistics distribution centers just exploded, as did our business, as did the pricing on those properties. So it was a silver lining to an otherwise very, very bad situation, for our country. But as a company, we survived it. So and it actually played in our favor.
All right. So what does your team look like these days?
I have 16 brokers, and they range in, experience from 40 years probably in the business to 2 years in the business. And we're fortunate to have groups of these brokers that will team up and work together. And depending on the product that they are representing or the client that they're making proposals to, they kind of bring the resources that they need to bear on that. So it might be a individual proposal, it might be 3 or 4 people, kind of depending on the complexity and the size of the program. So a good team, and I'm always looking to add more people. I'm pretty aggressively recruiting right now to add 3 or 4 more people to our team.
So when you're aggressively recruiting, what does that look like? And how do you know? Here's the other part of the question. How do you know when you've found a candidate, maybe you're interviewing them? How do you know, I think this person might make it in our industry, or no, I don't think they'd make it in the industry. Absent relevant industry experience, of course. So I'm talking about somebody that's new.
Right. Well, on a new person, and frankly, there are quite a few out there in the marketplace now, because as you're probably aware, residential sales are down with the interest rates being up the way they are. So I tend to see resumes from people that have been in residential sales, residential brokerage, apartment brokerage and sales. But the key is they have a real estate license, and that can take 60 to 90 days here in California to get. So I would just soon talk to somebody that has that. So, but because they have a license doesn't mean that they're any good in the selling process. So I will gather as many resumes as I can find, either on a LinkedIn, ZipRecruiter. There are several avenues out there that will give me access to resumes. And then I kind of filter through, and I will call the ones that I think have an interesting background that could point toward being good in our business. I'll bring those people in on a personal interview if that goes well. If I get a sense that, hey, this person really is motivated, this person really has certain sales skills that to me seem like it could work very well here in our business, I will then have them take a test. We have an online interviewer that will basically send them a questionnaire. That questionnaire, they answer. They have a follow-up phone conversation on that, and then I'll get a strength and weakness metrics back from this company. And if there's a strong recommendation, I'll then go to my sales manager and ask the sales manager to interview with them to make sure that I wasn't, biasing the interview in some way. And if we get a strong hit there, then I will usually have them talk to one of our senior salespeople to see whether there's a good mix in there. And if all of that works out, then we make the offer and we bring them in. The challenge to this, though, is we're a straight commission business. So if I'm talking to somebody who might be pretty good at what they do, but basically is tapped out right now from a finance standpoint, it's pretty tough for that person to want to join in with us, even though the opportunity is literally limitless on the money they can make, but there's no floor on the thing. Becomes a challenge.
Absolutely. So I'm curious about your team, because you've got such a range of experience. You said you've got people that have 40 years experience and people that have 2 years experience. Right. So what's the difference in managing someone that's been around for 40 years, that has 40 years in the business, versus somebody that's got 2 years, and how do you handle that? And what are the things, is a multi-tiered question for you, Steve. How do you handle the things that, gets the expression is you can't teach an old dog new tricks. If you want that 40 years of experience broker to be doing something they're not doing, how do you get them to do it versus getting someone that's been around for 2 years to do something new? So that was a long question for you.
That is a long question. And first of all, we don't have dogs, we have cats, because they're all independent contractors. And I don't know if you've ever I'm sure you have worked with a company that has independent contractors. Boy, they prove that word independent on a daily basis. And legally, I can't really tell them what to do, but I can guide them. And so the answer to your question of the 2-year versus a 40-year is I try to track and understand what the 40-year is doing. And if they are constantly, making more and more transactions, I really just kind of stay out of their way. I'll guide them. I'm constantly being asked to review a contract, because legally I have to look at the contracts that go out of here anyway. I might make a suggestion on maybe an addition to the language, although we don't write legalese. We're brokers, not attorneys. But the experienced ones are pretty much self-guided. It's the new ones, the 2 and 4 and even some of the 5-year brokers that I'll sit down with my sales manager on a weekly basis and run through, okay, what calls are you making? Who are you addressing? What kind of call are you making? Maybe I'll do a couple of practice calls with them, and then make suggestions as to, okay, you're not as effective on this because you're talking to the wrong industry. They're not growing right now. They don't have the budgets behind them. Make sure you're following the local business publications to see who's doing what out there. And if you see an industry, an aerospace industry, for example, that seems to be doing a lot of growing, then get yourself back to the computer, find a list of all those aerospace companies out there and go talk to them. Say, look, I see your industry is really doing well out there. Is there anything I can do to help provide you with any real estate information that might help you satisfy that growth requirement? So it's about making sure they're making the calls. Like I like to tell them, hey, no pirate ever found treasure out there by staying on a ship. So get out there and work with people. Just understand what it is that is troubling them out there, because you're supposed to be a problem solver. And even if it's helping them find a guy to help fix the roof or paint the building, you're not in the real estate business per se. You're in the problem solving business. You're just dealing with people that are working in industrial properties. And if they can see you as a problem solver, you're going to work with them. If they don't, then they just see you as one of my old clients like to refer to brokers back in the day as ignorant commission merchants. You don't want to be an ignorant commission merchant. You want to always be providing something of value.
Nobody wants to be an ignorant commission merchant. Yeah, nobody wants that. So it sounds like you're pretty hands-off when it comes to your more senior people that have been around for a long time, and you're much more hands-on with your newer folks. You're not leaving it up to them to figure it out.
Oh, no,
actively
no, no.
involved.
No, and the newer folks, newer agents, I will team up with experienced agents so that there's day-to-day in the market work that they're doing with existing listings so that they can then use that to leverage their ability to get involved with another listing, in which then they get the senior broker involved with it. So it's, I'm constantly trying to build up teams with experience working with inexperience. And then, the experienced guy leveraging his or her time through that inexperienced person, then leveraging their time by finding out more ways to not waste time and to be more effective in what they do.
Okay, so we're going to pause now for a word from our sponsor. But when we come back, I'm going to hold Steve's feet to the fire because I want to hear about some of the wins that you've had with your team over the past few years. Maybe a little bit about what drives you crazy about managing people. And most importantly, we're going to talk tequila. So now a word from our sponsor, Salesology 3X Appointments. You know how frustrating and stressful it is when you leave every sales meeting wondering if your sales team knows how to sell because they're not selling and all you ever hear from them are excuses. They blame your marketing. They say you need to use social media. And they say you need a new website. You know something's wrong, but you don't quite know what it is. And you're even starting to wonder if it's you. You don't have a lot of options. You could fire them all and start from scratch. And that would be expensive. And you're sick of waking up in the middle of the night wondering how to fix this. Well, imagine instead that you have an easy-to-use, replicable system that ensures your team can easily schedule qualified appointments. And imagine that your team is excited and motivated. No more excuses. And do you feel good? Salesology 3X Appointments can make that happen. If you're a business owner or a sales manager with an underperforming sales team, let's talk. Click on the link to my calendar in the show notes and schedule a time. And I look forward to meeting you. And we are back with Steve Pearson, who is a principal at DAUM Commercial Real Estate. Welcome back, Steve.
Well, thank you. Good to be back.
And so I want to know about some of the wins you, DAUM, you and your team have had in the past, in the recent past.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's a good question. We've had a lot of wins. As I referenced earlier, when COVID came along, that pushed a lot of business interest to the industrial side, to the logistics industrial side. So our team has been very actively engaged with both businesses as well as developers in helping them procure properties, which in Orange County is difficult because there's not a lot of vacant land here. It typically winds up being repurposing of an existing property, helping businesses find ways to grow, either expanding within Orange County, or in some cases moving them out of county, and sometimes even out of state. We have several people that work on a corporate service basis that can take a client or a division or whoever they're working with pretty much to any marketplace that they're really looking to get involved with, because we have partners out there. So my wins have basically been the ability to be one of the oldest and probably most reputable companies in Southern California in the industrial real estate field. And so that post-COVID growth of industrial demand played well into our hands, and my experienced brokers, as we talked about earlier, I have them everything from 40 to 2 years, had the relationships to be able to then activate that opportunity and transact in those businesses. So that's kind of been that's been our wins. I think you also asked me what drives me crazy.
Well, yes, you mentioned before that you don't have dogs, you have cats.
Yep.
And in my experience, I've worked with a lot of people in commercial real estate over the years. I would imagine it's a lot like herding cats.
Yeah.
I'm curious as to what makes you crazy when managing a team, especially it's a good sized team.
It is a good sized team. And I guess what drives me crazy is hiring someone only to find out that they don't want to succeed as much as I do. And I mentioned that recruiting process that we go through. That's part of the reason we do that multiple tier recruiting and testing, is to make sure that, hey, is this person just kind of, bright at the moment, or are they really driven? Do they have a chip to succeed in some way that would serve them well here in our business? And most of the hiring that I've done have proven to be that case. I've had cases where that's not. Either somebody started off great and then, I don't know, either got into family issues, or got into financial issues, got into something that just made it so they weren't really effective. And I've had to, unfortunately, I've had to ask a couple of people to leave because of that. So, but what I try to do is make sure that I'm always checking in and saying, look, how's your business doing? Are you getting effective communications with clients? Are you expanding your client base? Hey, have you thought about not just talking about a lease or a sale, but have you talked in terms of exchanges, in terms of sale leasebacks, in terms of, just have you broadened your conversation enough and focused on what it is that particular client might need, rather than just regurgitating something about what you think you know about the marketplace? Because odds are they're not interested in that. They're interested in their business and how, if at all, you can help them with that. So it drives me crazy when people just don't listen.
Yes. Are there markers that you can look for either in the interview process or after you've hired someone fairly early on? Are there markers, things that you look for that validate I hired the right person, or, oh, that's a flag. That's a warning sign. I better keep an eye on this.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, oh, definitely. Anyone I bring in, I tell them, look, this may be a Monday through Friday business, commercial real estate versus residential, which is kind of 7 days a week. I said, but if you're not in here at 7 a.m. and working till 7 p.m. To earn your respect of the marketplace and of the other brokers here in our office, you're not going to make it. And when I see people that aren't willing to do that, then that was a bad hire.
Okay. Any other markers you look for?
Yeah, if someone is not paying attention to the documents that we use an AIR form for both our listing presentations, our purchase and sale agreements, our lease agreements, and we're not attorneys, but every paragraph in those documents has a business significance to a client, depending on whether we're working with a landlord, a tenant, a buyer, or a seller. And if I see that our newer agents aren't really paying attention to that, if they're just filling in the blanks and passing it on, then I have a sit down with them. We talk about why they need to pay more focus on those other business issues that are in the contract. And if they do that, I'll sit down and explain what those business situations are. If then they correct that, then that's okay. They were just maybe more overly aggressive in the calling and trying to find somebody to talk to than they were in the details behind that. But I think within the first 90 days, I can pretty much tell whether somebody's going to make it in this business or not.
So it sounds like you have a certain process that needs to be followed, and it doesn't work if they're not following if someone's not following the process, and that's a flag for you.
Right. Well, let's call it what it is. You're the queen of cold calling.
I am.
When you get started in this business, it's all about cold calling. And if someone is fearful, reluctant, not willing, however you want to describe it, to make 50 to 100 calls a day. And again, I have almost 300 million square feet of industrial product out in our marketplace. That's some 15,000 plus people. There are a lot of people to talk to out there. And your phone call, 95% of them are probably not going to go anywhere. There's going to be a receptionist who's paid to not let you talk to the decision maker in the company. But if you can get one piece of information out of that first contact try, and then use that to find another piece of information the next time you make contact, and then maybe the third time when you're out actually physically in the market, make reference to those pieces of information that you gathered, maybe throw in some of the observations that you had while you were visiting that property, you're going to start to gain credibility relative to someone that might be worth them talking to. But if you're not doing that, you might as well be just somebody cranking an organ and hoping that it plays a good tune.
So let's talk tequila. You are also, in addition to being a principal with DAUM Commercial Real Estate, you're a tequila entrepreneur. The website is elmanooldo.com. And we'll post that in the show notes along with with your contact information, Steve. But tell us about being a tequila entrepreneur.
Well, and that's probably part of the reason that I'm not a CEO of a major company is I do tend to have a fairly sharp sense of humor and wit, which showed up about 10 years ago at one of our Stanford reunions when every 5 years they publish a book and they ask you what you've been doing since you graduated, and it's all set up alphabetically. I'm looking through the book, and alphabetically, the lady on the facing page to mine had just given $25 million to the university, had 8 Tonys to her name, and was on the board of Juilliard. I'm going, I got to do better than that. So one of my clients is one of the larger Hispanic grocery operators here in Southern California. And I just coincidentally happened to be sipping a little tequila. And so it made this story up. And I said, okay, when I graduated, I was turned down by the Stanford MBA program, which is kind of the only true part of this whole story. So I went on a drinking bender to Tequila, Mexico, where I met and married the outrageously beautiful Diana, daughter of the largest tequila hacienda in all of Tequila, Mexico. And now I'm a rich expat down here in Tequila, looking forward to coming back and sharing some of my El Mano Oldo tequila with you. Well, where did El Mano Oldo come from? Well, my pidgin Spanish wasn't so good, so I thought the old man would be El Mano Oldo. It turns out Mano is hand, but hey, my father-in-law thought that was pretty funny. We branded it anyway, and I'm bringing it down, and we're going to all share some great tequila together at the next reunion. So they published the damn thing. And when I saw that published, I said, oh, shoot, I got to go to the next step now. So I actually made up these labels with the backstory, as I just explained to everybody, on the back of it. And the front was a picture basically of me post-graduation, dressed up as a cowboy dude, and that showed up at a reunion. Half the people I ran into, I was pouring shots of it during our opening dinner, and half the people bought into it. Oh, this is great. How do we get it? Well, so I guess I better put a website together. But then a couple ran into my fraternity brothers who told them, no, that was total BS. He just made that up. They said, well, that's still great. So anyway, it's turned into, it was a practical joke that then I thought, well, maybe it's a hobby. Then, well, maybe it's a business, but no, it's a hobby. It's really something that I enjoy doing. I've just recently done a mini reunion with our Stanford class of 70 and put a few commemorative bottles together for the guys that organize that. So it's just something I do for fun.
Okay, well, do let me know when you're putting together the El Mano Oldo vodka website, and we'll have a conversation.
Well, it's interesting you mentioned the vodka, because at the reunion, I ran into a couple of my classmates who actually are trying to market a vodka. It's Kokana, Cokana. And in their travels, I guess down in Central America, they ran into the cocoa leaf, which I guess you're inclined to do when you're down there. And they decided, hey, maybe they can infuse vodka with that. So they've got this product that was, I guess they've taken the toxin, the hallucinogen aspect out of it, sort of like taking caffeine out of coffee, I imagine, and have this vodka that they're going to send me a bottle of to see what I think about it. They've struggled because they're not a big group, and in spirits, as I found out through tequila, unless you're pretty well connected with the big distributors out there, it's pretty difficult to get any positioning on any shelves. And then you also have to be able to deliver significant volumes of what you have. So that kind of kept me in the hobby category. And these ladies haven't figured out whether they're a hobby or a business yet, but I'm going to see whatever I can do to help them. Maybe I can create an El Mano kind of story along for them and help them kind of brand it with a bit of a pizzazz, get it going that way.
Okay, well, keep me posted on that.
I will. I'll definitely do that.
Okay. So where can people find you, Steve, if people want to connect with you? How can they find you? How can they connect with you?
They can do that through my LinkedIn or through my LinkedIn or Facebook are probably the best. If somebody needs to contact me, they can always, text me as well. I'll be happy. I tend to, if you're texting or leaving any kind, if you're making any kind of communication, you need to understand who you are, because I can't tell you how many potential spam messages I will get on a daily basis, and I never did like spam, even when it was just in the can. So I don't respond. I don't respond to those potential spams.
Yeah, right. Well, we will post Steve's LinkedIn profile, his Facebook profile, and also the link to DAUM commercial in the show notes. So if you want to connect with Steve after you finish listening to this podcast, then go to the show notes and click on the links. They will all be there, and you'll be able to connect with Steve. So thank you all for listening to the Salesology Conversations with Sales Leaders podcast with my special guest, Steve Pearson, principal of DAUM Commercial and Tequila Entrepreneur. And
don't forget the ukulele.
And he plays a mean ukulele. So you'll have to come back and play for us one day.
All right.
And if you found value in listening to today's podcast, then please think about one business owner, one entrepreneur, one sales leader, somebody that you know that you think might also find value in listening to this podcast. And please do share the link with them. And until we meet again, visualize yourself surrounded by cash, really large bills.
You've been listening to Salesology, Conversations with Sales Leaders, the art of faster, easier, more profitable sales. Be sure to follow so that you don't miss a single episode. And while you're at it, please leave a rating and review, and be sure to share it with your friends. Tune in every week for more exciting insights and wisdom on transforming sales. And until next time, visualize yourself surrounded by cash, very large bills.